Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Kenichi, and thank you everyone for having me. It is nice to be here today, and I'm excited to be here. I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay. And if you let me know when you can see my screen, that would be great.
Will do.
We can see it.
Yeah. So thank you.
Cool. Okay, so you can see my screen. Okay. So in this talk, I'm going to focus on telling you about how Ofgem identifies, collects, transform data into actionable insights uh, in a using limited resources. Although I intend to talk to you about AFP because I believe many of your members will benefit from this, I might not go into that. So, so thank you. Thank you, Kenichi, for the introduction. But as I will just briefly talk about myself. Yeah, it's nice to be here again because coming here reminds me of all those activity I used to do back in Nigeria with the society. I did chemical engineering, and while I was studying at OAU, I was a former president of the Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers OAU chapter. And at some point, I was the national vice president for the Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers in Nigeria. I do attend a lot of meetings, not just meetings. I attend our NSCHE National Conference. In the last one I attended was in 2011 uh, in uh, in Port Harcourt. The 2010 one, our 40th anniversary. I was just checking yesterday to see that it's already over 2010 is about 14 years ago at a hotel. So even though in Nigeria, I don't participate much directly with NSC because NSCHE is a division of NSC, and I think sometimes our success with NSCHE can be a challenge because we do a lot of stuff within the NSCHE that even though we send our delegates, but many of us chemical engineers, I think generally uh, we don't usually have time to participate much. But then I do watch what this organization is doing, and it's nice to be here. I see myself as a member. I have 4 degrees in engineering. I went to Federal Polytechnic in Ado-Ekiti, where I did mineral resource engineering before going to OAU for chemical engineering. And then I continue in the UK. Yeah, so and it's been nice working as an engineer. And although part of what I thought I would be talking to you today is even though it's nice studying engineering in Nigeria, when you move to another country, sometimes it's a different ballgame. So you have to adapt and adjust to get the best and to still be able to work as an engineer. And unfortunately, for many people, that doesn't happen. There are many people that did engineering in Nigeria, like myself, that come to the UK and do actually struggle to come into this profession here. And I think those are the things that organizations like this, we need to be talking about how we can help people actually break in and continue to be able to even despite the change. I am happy to be part of this organization. I did my current certification in 2018, and apologies if I've sent doctor to you. Maybe I'm supposed to add engineer in front of my name, but that's fine. Most people call me Emmanuel. I most times I forget to call myself doctor. So I am also interested in education. During my PhD, I was fortunate to work uh, in a very active research group, and my supervisor now in the University of Sharjah is he left the UK to UAE because the project was such an innovative one, and UAE and Saudi Arabia, they are spending a lot of money now into a lot of innovations, which unfortunately they are taking that away from the Western world. Because then I work on hydrogen energy, hydrogen fuel cell. So getting the technology behind all the electric cars and stuff. And that's one of the reasons why I did move into data, because then I developed an innovative approach where we can use machine learning to predict the performance of the fuel cell, and we're able to develop innovative materials that are sustainable and help our environment. And so, in addition to working professionally, I like participating and helping as much as I can. And that is why I joined ML Club in Glasgow. ML Club Glasgow started around 2014, and although it's something that keeps going, but during lockdown, is community breakdown in 2020, and that was when I took it over and I became the organizer for the group. Now, unfortunately, now we now have some of our gunners back, which is good because the more the merrier. But we continue to do a lot of work helping people break into data, giving opportunity to everyone. And the field is currently evolving. It takes everyone, irrespective of who you are, irrespective of your race, affiliation, in as much as you know what you're doing, there's a space for you. And fortunately, this month we are going to be having our next session. I think it's now next week, which we are going to be inviting professionals from Databricks. So for those of you that you are looking to make use of that technology to harness your data in an efficient way, uh, we'll be looking to have you there. I think it will be helpful for all engineers. And outside of that, what I also do is with AFPE. I'm one of their board member, but uh, the area where I do help is in their real projects, uh, helping engineers, minority ethnic engineers, to actually be engineers. Because as I said, most people, based on the UK data sets, majority of Black members from the Black and also minority ethnic group, despite the fact that they go to the universities to study engineering, they don't end up working as engineers. And there are so many factors that contribute to this. Some of those factors might be uh, maybe the syllabus is different, maybe the environment is different, maybe it's the elements of the room we don't like to talk about, maybe it's racism, it can be, who knows. But at the end of the day, the data is clear about what we have, that people study engineers and they are not working as engineers. So what we do is understand why are people not being engineers, and we've curate series of programs that we go through, and so that we help our people to become to work as engineers. So yeah, so that is one thing, and I think that's basically me. And yeah, and once again, it's nice to be here, and I'm looking forward to be talking to you about this. And one thing I would like to quickly introduce to you, Ofgem. Ofgem is the organization in the UK. In 2000, Ofgem was founded. Uh, in UK, we used to have an office for electricity and another office for gas. But in 2000, both bodies come together as one. And Ofgem is under the office department for energy security and net zero. We call it business. And it's an independent body, although one thing is we get our funding from the government. The main thing that we do is in terms of regulating the energy and gas markets, and then ensuring that there is enough supply for the United Kingdom and for everyone in this country. And and that's what we do. In order to achieve that, we use a lot of the data. So there's a question I would like to ask. I thought okay, I should have done this earlier. I would have loved it to be a poll. I want to ask you, do you think Ofgem is have limited constraint when it comes to resources? Do you think our resource is limited? If you think so, just maybe use a reaction. or if you think we just have we have a lot. I'm not seeing any reaction, but then
Maybe we can introduce different reactions for different eh,
yeah,
yeah, maybe thumbs up if you think they are resource constrained, and then a different reaction if you think they have everything they need.
yeah.
Okay, I
Thank
can
you.
see thumbs up, a few thumbs
Yeah.
up.
Okay.
Any other
Thank
reaction
you,
will be
Lawrence.
considered, yeah, as them having everything.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much for the reaction there. So and then let me go to my next slide. And that's the question: is Ofgem having a limited resources? When it comes to funding, Ofgem, we get our funding from the government. We have through the budgets, and we also get our funding from fines and penalties. When it comes to budgets, and because of those limited source, definitely I can assure you that in Ofgem we have a lot of limited resources. And because, even though we have the fines, the goal is not actually to make money from the fines. Fine is more there so that to correct people is a corrective measure. So when they give fines, even though often use that fine as part of their running, they use it to run the organization, but the goal is not to make that as a main source of income. And then when it comes to the government budgets, things keep changing in terms of what the government intends to do. For those of you that have been in the news, with the new changing governments, there is now a new government department. There is now a new body that is called, is it Great British Energy? So, and with that, it means Ofgem is going to be having a separate, an additional responsibility because the way we have it now, uh, it's more regulated. With Great Britain Energy, it might not be as regulated as it is now, because with that, governments might be playing more role. But I can't really say because currently it's still something that is still currently being reviewed. So we still need to understand how that works. But one thing that we can say is clear for now, the fact that uh, in creating Great Britain Energy, there are a lot of stuff about managing data and the likes, and which is an activity that Ofgem is going to be helping with. So it's going to be an extra responsibility. And with the extra responsibility, it's not always sure that when you have more to do, you will definitely be getting more money. So that puts more constraints and limits on the funding that's available to Ofgem. And said with regulation, that comes with new regulations as well. And we also have the market demand that keeps raising, increasing all the time. Now we now have a lot around AI, and almost everyone wants to use AI. And talking with different people, researchers, and everything, a lot have different activities coming on around the use of AI and how they want to apply it to their energy and market supply. So, it means that the way we are going to be regulating is a bit complicated as well, because we need to know that what is when people use AI to in marketing, for example, what impact does it have? There is a work that we are currently doing at the moment, uh, where consumers are currently giving a survey on what they think about energy providers using just AI to answer their requests. And at the moment, it's not something that we are doing at Ofgem, but we are trying to know what people think. Some people are okay with, I would have even liked to ask us on this call, or maybe next time, if when you want to contact your energy provider, if you won't mind if AI does everything for you, or if you want to speak with human, or if you want both. Because we just need, because currently there's a lot of opportunities with data and AI, and it's something that we continue to look at how we can maximize. And the next is what Ofgem is doing with data. Ofgem has five main responsibilities, and our key responsibility is from where we decide what we use with data. Ofgem develop a strategy for the organization, and in that strategy, it's less than 30 pages, but it has data written about 57 times. Right, so it shows that within Ofgem, our data is very, very important to the organization. The five major responsibilities of Ofgem is the first one is to protect customers. The second is to regulate the energy markets. We want to promote sustainability, which is a key part of the government for the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero to achieve net security, net zero by 2030. And we also want to ensure security of supply and also enforcing regulation. Each of these major goals of Ofgem can be achieved with data, and currently we are making use of data to achieve all of them. So, for example, when it comes to protecting our customers, currently Ofgem is using data to know how customers are doing, uh, their opinion about their energy providers, uh, how when they are speaking to them, what emotion comes out, if it is anger or fear. There are different things that we are currently doing with regards to that. And when it comes to regulating the energy market, currently we make use of some websites that provides details about companies like Bloomberg and other financial websites where we get data about the energy market, and with that we're able to track performance of these energy companies and be able to enforce standards. For promoting sustainability, we continue to work with other government departments like the National Data Repository, like the NSTA and others that are into the energy industry, and also making sure that our consume and the oil companies, when they play their fair share and they take sustainable decisions where needed, and also make sure that they have a plan towards that getting towards net zero, and also when it comes to energy efficiency. So all these Ofgem uses data to do, and obviously when it comes to enforcing regulation. And and when you want to use data as Ofgem is using data, it is very important because you have loads of data sets, right? So, and it's not just about having a lot of data. If you have lots of data, if they are not refined, if they are not processed, they are not, you can't get insight from them. So you need to take them from just being information or just random data sets to being genuine data sets. And that is one thing that's very important. And so that is, this slide is going to be talking to you about how we identify relevant information at Optim. The most important thing for Optim when we consider data is, as stated, you can see that we look at what is important to the organization strategy, because there is no point doing something that doesn't lead us to our goal or to our core strategy. And so that is the main driver. What is Ofgem trying to do? And since we know that, okay, this is what we want to do, we have our consumers and our back, so we can, okay, what data will help us satisfy, protect our consumer? What data will help us improve sustainability of the UK? What data will help us regulate or drive compliance? So, those are the first things that drive. And currently, based on that, what we have at the moment is, which is the most important one that we do, is that stakeholder feedback. We normally, at Ofgem, we do regularly send out review of surveys and forms to people. And through these surveys and forms, when people are making use of a particular scheme, uh, just for those of you that might not be familiar, a scheme is a particular plan that the government usually develop in the United Kingdom to support customers that are not low-income customers, so that government can partially pay or help them pay their energy bills. So we have so many schemes, and uh, to protect customers, we need to be able to know which scheme is valuable or which scheme will be helpful to our customers. When we identify the schemes that are valuable, that's when we set up those schemes. And with our data, we want to know when we set up a scheme, how many people are actually benefiting from the scheme. And when we know the number of people benefiting, we look at it, how many people are also abusing the scheme. So, using our data, we can know if the scheme is efficient or not, if it needs to be adjusted, if it needs to be shut down, if others needs to be created. So all those things is around our data sets. And sometimes you might think that you do have, if you go, you might think that you've created a very nice scheme, but by the time you roll it out to the customers, they'll say, no, even though you've created this new scheme, this scheme is, I'm now getting less money than the former scheme, or maybe because of this new scheme, I'm not able to get maybe XYZ that I used to get. So through customer feedback, we go back and we'll review and adjust. And of course, our policy team reviews it to make sure that we get the best. And one example of where we use in some instances, we send those feedback directly to our customers. In some other area, it might just be that it will be from maybe an established body like Citizens Advice that they've already done the work. Because when people have challenges, they go to Citizens Advice. So in cases, and that is very important to this discussion, because in some cases, when Citizens Advice already have the data sets, why do Ofgem needs to go and get it again? So when you have limited resource, you have to make sure that you make use of existing data sets, not always when you can save, you save. And then we have market analysis, for example, we get from Bloomberg and some other websites. But many of those websites, they are reputable. So, and identifying those sources means that Optim doesn't have to do that homework themselves. They just make sure that this data that is from here, and they just use it in their own analysis. For example, consumer trends, we use Trustpilot, for example. There's Trustpilot, there's Twitter, there is even Citizens Advice as well. Uh, those websites where users tends to give a feedback or about the companies. So, and when you go to those websites, people can tell you, if you look at what we have here, you can see I intentionally cut, oh, sorry, this actually had reply from British Gas. I tried to remove British Gas from it because I don't want the energy company to be there, because they did have a review of I think average of 4.2 on Trustpilot, but I decided to look for the negative review. But what I want to say here is that you can see what you can see here is that you can see on Trustpilot and all those websites, people come in sincerely to talk about their experiences. And uh, with us at Opgem, we make use of stuff like this as well. We get data and we analyze it. And one thing I want to say is that most of it, it's not like you take Trustpilot and then you go back to them. No, you're not doing this. No. There will be maybe data from Trustpilot, complaints from consumers through requests for information, uh, another regulatory fault somewhere. So there are a couple of things that you bring together before you can establish that, okay, this person is now actually doing right. But all those points, they come together. And another thing that is very important is leveraging existing data sets. Currently, there are some data sets by uh, if for those of you that you're in oil and gas, you'll be aware of the UK NBR UK data repository for oil and gas. And one thing about the repository is it makes it available for many organizations to get access to oil and gas data sets. All you just need to do for your company is to register. And once you register, you have access to all the data sets, and I think it has all the oil wells and basins around the UK, and also I'm sure some in Norway, and I'm not sure if it includes some in the Middle East, to be honest, but I can confirm that mostly in North Sea is well represented there. But the good thing about it is that, with you being part of joining them, you don't have to do all the heavy lifting yourself. The data is already clean, curated, and ready to go. So all you just need to do for your organization is, and you can even use some of their analysis. In some cases, they already have like how can I say it, some visualization that's already ready. But sometimes you might need to get some different insights depending on what you want to do. In those instances, you can do your own analysis. You can build an analysis based on that data set. And that's the way it works. That's very important for you to leverage the existing data set. And the uh, North Sea Transition Authority also have some on their websites, which for those of you that are interested in that, you could check. And then, of course, the elephant in the room, partnership with the energy suppliers. This we do quite a lot. In the UK, there is a request for information when you can always request for information from any organization, and they are legally it's a legal obligation to reply you within, I think, is it 30 working days? So in that case, all energy companies in the UK, we tend to send them a request for information. So they give us, this is how much we produce, all the information all the questions that our analyst needs, and in terms of their prices and all that. So if they are defaulting with that, we are able to support our customers. So I hope this is helping on how you identify the data. The thing I wanted to take from here is that even though you have a lot of data sets, currently we are now in the world of big data with Twitter, Facebook, and all the data just available everywhere and access that we have. It is very important for you to actually identify the right information because that lays the foundation for the success you can get with your data sets. And when you identify the data sets, the next thing is for you to design a means to get the data set because data comes in different forms and some might be quite easy and some might be a bit complicated, needing some specialized tools and resources. And that is where this comes into play. But here I would just say one thing that we tend to do in Ofgem is as much as possible, and I will recommend this for any business, automate as much as you can. If you know you are going to be doing something every day or every month or every week, instead of you having to do all the plan again. So if you can set up yourself to think in such a way that your solution can be scaled and it can be automated, it does help. And that's what we tend to do, especially with all our data pipelines. We go through all the pain, the data governance, the development and everything to do it once. But once we do it once, we are able to automate and schedule it, which makes it easy. And of course, using surveys and database is always is something that we do all the time with the request for information because every company in the UK they have to submit those forms and our team make use of them to make their decision. And once you have all the data, you have it with you, that's half of the job. You now need to ensure that you're able to get the right information from the data set. And to do that, I'll call that transforming data into actionable insights, because that is when you could actually make use of your data set. And it usually involves some data cleaning and validation. In some cases, you might need some tools and then doing some visualization to communicate it effectively. So this website I've shared is where in Ofgem, many of all these charts is available for everyone on our website for anyone that is interested. So yeah, as much as possible, we tend to share most of the things that we can share because I think it's helpful when the masses have the information that they need at the right time. So in this particular transforming data to actionable insights, currently what is Ofgem doing uh, to reduce cost in this respects? Uh, Currently in terms of analytics tool, we use Power BI. And if you look at Power BI is part of a Microsoft tool. Most of you that you have Microsoft installed, you can get Power BI for free. So it's a tool that it's not expensive. The only thing that I think where we pay extra is when it comes to adding some security, ensuring access control. So in those cases, we do need to get some premium license, but it's still cheap compared to so many websites and many organizations. New organization that doesn't need much security and stuff like us can even do without those license. So, and even when it comes to the data cleaning and validation, we make use of Python and PySpark. These are open source technology. So when you make use of those open source technology, it means that you are not spending money for your softwares. And when you are not spending money on the webs on the software, that's cheap. So, and all those things are ways where you can reduce income. Although I'm still going to be talking more on some of them. Okay, maximizing impacts with limited resources. Yeah, as I said, we all think about how we can maximize impact with limited resources. Growing up in Nigeria, I know we tend to think that Nigeria is there is lack of resources, but in reality, it's not really true. There are resources everywhere. The most important, the problem that is in Nigeria is also here, and that is the fact that people in economics, they said resources are always scarce, and there's always a scale of preference. So many times the challenge we have is how we can convince our managers and our decision makers that it's worth it for them to invest in data, because we also have that problem here. And another thing is, we many times when you don't do something and you do something else, there's always an opportunity cost as well. There's always that cost of alternative that we normally have. So many times when we don't do things the right way, we tend to pay for them in a way that is more expensive than when we do it in the right way. So for many of you on this call, I believe you will be maybe you are in a position in your work that you can make decision. I would like to put it to you that each time you try to save money by not uh, analyzing your data or following those real processes to get real insights, you're actually paying more somewhere else, because it means that you are more likely to be making your decision based on insights rather than using the data that you have. So in a way that we've tried to maximize impact with limited resources is, as I've told you, using tools that we're making use of available. There are some tools that are free, like open source softwares, for example, and also ensuring that looking at which projects have strategic impact on your goal. As an organization, you need to work out your strategy. And when you have your strategy, you want to make sure that uh, your business strategy and your data strategy link together. When you know your business strategy, that's when you now work out which data do you need to achieve your business strategy. So, you have to match both together. And when you match that together, you might, most of the time, you discover that most of the things that you need are not as expensive as you think. What most organization needs is maybe analyzing their data, even with Excel. So, because if you look at it, it's before you have to make complex analysis, many times it's most of because I'm a big fan of Pareto principle, and what we learned with Pareto principle is that you can make 80% of improvements with 20% impact. So and that is real. So there are always most of your quick wins, you can achieve that 80% efficiency with that 20% quick wins. It's just being strategic enough to identify what are those areas, and collaboration with industry stakeholders to share data and resources. That is a very big deal. That is the spirit behind and the national data repository that we have with NDR for the North Sea. All those you have to collaborate, you have to share. And through that collaboration, it makes everyone stronger. And generally, that is what we do. And then using the cloud, currently within Ofgem is a cloud first organization. And it's not just Ofgem, the UK Civil Service. It is in the UK Civil Service Solution Architectural Design Decision. It is there that before you consider any other solution, you must first think about putting it in the cloud. So in that case, when you put your data in the cloud, it makes it easy. The cost is even cheaper. So, and then let me go to, so these are some of the examples of uh, actionable insights that we currently make, analyzing consumer feedback. I talked about trust pilots, monitoring energy prices for fair practices, evaluating renewable energy program, the schemes that we have, and then the Ofgem common data platform. I'm going to be mentioning that briefly next. So Ofgem's common data platform. Yeah, well, when I joined Ofgem, it was when Ofgem is about to build the common data platform. And that was my first task with Ofgem to design and develop the common data platform, which with support of my amazing colleagues, we were able to deliver. One thing about the common data platform is it provides a source of truth for an organization's data sets. Because in many cases, many people, organizations, everyone have their data on their local laptop. For example, if you let's assume you have the finance department and the HR team, for example. Finance might say, okay, we want to recruit a new engineer for £55,000 per annum. HR might say, okay, they want to recruit, maybe HR also have 55,000. But the thing is, HR might end up recruiting someone for 48,000, but finance have it as 55. If they are using a different database, sometimes different organizations have different version of truths. But having a centralized system means that everybody have access to the central source of data sets and they can update it accordingly. Organizations that have used the common data platform have been able to ensure that uh, their staffs have access to data when they need to. And also when somebody goes on annual leave or holiday, you are not waiting until that person is back to work. And one thing I can also say is that when this happens, it's also easier for organization because they know that when people are not having too much pressure because they feel like they have too much burden for the organization. So and this is an example of some research that we did before the common data platform, our former solution and the new solution. If one thing I can say, you should say is, you can see that with this, our processing time reduced. And if you look at this calculation processing time from 1 hour 40 minutes to just 6 minutes, while we use a quarter of the memory and a quarter of the core per nodes. This query of 1 minute 38 seconds now running in 8 seconds. So that is that is amazing, and that is something that you can achieve if you do the same
Sorry
thing.
to interrupt you, Dr. Emmanuel, just to say that we have like 5 minutes just to round up the presentation so that people will have the opportunity to ask questions. And if there are any areas that you might wish to expand on, you can address that then. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all right. So yeah, so as I'm saying, so that is it. And another thing that I would like to talk about is the emotion hub. Uh, but we have this emotion hub in Ofgem, which is very helpful. I know everyone talks about LLM, so we decided to join well, not really join the bandwagon. It's just because we know that it's something that could help our customers. And again, when we did the emotion hub, it's making use of uh, Hugging Face, for example, Hugging Face model that is already designed and fine-tuning the model. So it's not like going all the way from the scratch. And and again, that's one thing I'm saying around when you have limited resources. When you have a limited resource, you have to look at what is currently on ground and what can you adapt to get what you need to get, all this kind of stuff. And that's what we continue to do. And one thing about the emotion app for Opgem is it gets data from trust pilots and then it reviews them into emotional classification. So, and some of those ones that we have is anger, fear, all these kind of things. So it can say what people are feeling when at the end of the call. So it will scan through people's reviews and summarize it using a particular emotion. It can be happy, it can be anger, it can be sad, it can be fear, And one thing that makes the app interesting, makes it appealing to our users is just the fact that it's user friendly, and the time it takes to get data, it's quite fast. Because we're able to, we used this API from Pulsar, which was quite good, and yeah, so just to round it off, no matter in as much as uh, uh, we are still in any environment, resources will always be scarce because human wants are insatiable, and also because we are currently in a changing time. A lot is going on these days, both politically and economically. So based on that, we need to start looking deep into for all our organizations, like what is the organization strategy and what can I achieve with data? And the most important, as we are doing that, we need to be looking at what do I currently have access to? Because sometimes we focus too much on the big technology without thinking about what is already in front of us. For data, there are three major areas. We want to manage data, we want to manipulate data, and we want to report data. Most people only benefit from at least 50% of use cases is just to report data. So if you're able to report your data effectively, you are halfway done. So thank you very much for this opportunity to speak with you today. It's nice to have you, and I appreciate the time that you've given and for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emmanuel, for that wonderful presentation. Please, can we give a round of applause, virtual round of applause to our presenter for that session? We really appreciate you. I can see people cheering you with the
Yeah,
reaction
thank you.
sign. Thank you. This is the time to ask questions, please. If you have any questions, I've been looking into the chat to see if anyone has dropped any questions, but I might have missed something. If you have any questions, please, now would be the time to ask. Please use the reaction buttons to raise your hand, virtual hand, and then I will call you to unmute yourself and ask questions. Yes, Engineer Stephen Ugwai.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Emmanuel, for your presentation. Yeah, I think a very good presentation from your side. But I was thinking probably you approach that based on Ofgem's, from the market perspective. The last webinar we had, though you were not there, discussion was focused around how do we even get data, about, I know from your presentation you talked about, existing data sets. I'm also aware of Ofgem data portal as well. But I was thinking if you could expand more on Ofgem strategy, regarding how they obtain data in terms of the energy market, wholesale energy market, the energy networks. I know they also have flexibility platform. How can Nigeria, for example, look towards having, a data portal that would help, solve some of the challenges we have in Nigeria regarding the electricity market. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the way Ofgem gets data is what I put on this slide. The way Ofgem gets data, I think, is the same way Nigeria can get data if Nigeria wants to get it. For example, partnership with energy suppliers. There is a requirement for all energy companies in the UK to send their data to Ofgem every month. The companies in the North Sea does the same thing with the North Sea Transition Authority, so that they can, with that, UK is able to track how they are meeting their carbon capture targets and their investments in renewable energy in the North Sea. So all that is there. It's only if we decide to do it. So it's not like, because for you to operate in Nigeria, Nigeria can ask you. It's just like when Nigeria wants us to, when they want us to all have national ID, they did not speak to the bank to tell us to that before we can even get our money, we must register for, what's the name of that one that I had to travel to London to do. So Nigeria can do it if they want to do it. And when it comes to these existing data sets, like in Nigeria too, there is already all these data sets. There is this man that I used to follow in Nigeria on LinkedIn, and there are loads of startups coming from Nigeria, and you'll be amazed about new technology that people are designing in terms of all this platform stuff. I think the main thing is just for the government to hold all the big companies to account in terms of that data set. But I believe that it's already there. It's just for them to say, these data sets, we want you to be putting it here. If you don't put it, this is the fine. In the UK, if they didn't put it, they know that they will be fined and they have to do it.
So Dr. Emmanuel, sorry, just on the follow-up questions to that, for Ofgem to get those data from those companies which you mentioned, is it a matter of legislation? So, for example, is there a legislation that mandates those companies to provide those data to Ofgem? I'm just looking at it in the case of Nigeria. Could that be like a legislation or something to back it for those data to be provided?
Yeah, in the UK, there's a legislation request for information. When you request an information from any organization, they need to reply you within 30 working days. But that regulation is not, that regulation did not even say you can be fined. I think it's just that there is a regulation for Ofgem that in as much as I'm monitoring, I'm regulating you, if you don't do this, this is what I'm going to do. So I believe that Nigerian government doesn't need to make that new regulation. The departments, maybe under the Ministry of Energy or Electricity that is in charge of regulating NEPA and all that, I believe they can do that now if they want to do it. It's just that people might not be willing to make those changes. Felix, go for it.
Yes, thank you, Felix.
Thank you very much for the opportunity given to me. As I want to ask Emmanuel, is there any template that is given to all these players to ensure that similar data are collected from them? If we ask someone just to give you information, he gives you information from his own end. So is there any templates circulated from Ofgem to all these players to make sure that you get uniform data from them? Thank you.
Yes, there is a template. And the reason why we give them the templates to ensure uniformity, to also make sure that when they give us their data sets, it works with our data pipelines so that we can just validate if somebody needs to put amount of money in a particular column but put text, it will say, no, you need to put the right input on this column. So there are those things that there is a template that has those validation in place to make sure that even if they don't put the right input, they won't be able to send it in the first place. So, and if they send it to us and we feel that they didn't send the right thing, we send it back, we get back to them to resend it again. Yeah, so there is.
Thank you, Emmanuel. There's a question in the chat about asking, someone wants to know what's happening with the pricing and capping of energy prices by Ofgem and network currently in the UK. They are aware that energy regulation is handled by Ofgem, just thinking outside the box. So I guess maybe they want some industry news from your industry.
Oh, well, I will apologize. I can't give industry news because obviously I'm not here to represent Ofgem in quotes. But one big part of what Ofgem is doing is in terms of price cap, and the goal of the price cap is to set a limit to what energy companies can charge in terms of electricity. there's always a lot of debate on price cap, and for that reason too, I would like to avoid talking about price cap. But again, if we look at the bigger picture when it comes to price cap, what Ofgem is always doing is looking at how can I say it, an optimized point that works for both consumers and the provider and the supplier.
Okay, thank you. They're happy with that. I have a question myself. So if I have a small business in Nigeria, maybe I'm delivering diesel to telecom companies, for instance, and I want to use AI to just like optimize or improve my business, how much data do I need? And how do I know how much data is enough? You've talked about like sources of obtaining data. Assuming I want to design a survey, how do I know how many people's responses I need so that that decision is properly informed?
Well, one thing when you want to hold a survey, anything that is that involves social science, sometimes it might be difficult to actually arrive at a point. But one thing that I think is very important to before you start making your survey, trying to understand identify who are the players, uh, who needs to be informed about your decision, who needs to be aware, all those stages in terms of carrying people along. So I believe that in that case, making sure that every segment is well represented. Because sometimes if you focus too much on a small group of people, it might end up not reaching the right people. For Ofgem, most times when they send out survey, maybe because we supply the schemes, they already have details of everyone on that scheme. So when they are sending the survey, it's actually reaching those people that are actually using that service. Again, there's a challenge of when people ask for the survey. Sometimes people that are actually struggling from a decision might not fill the survey. So, and that is why sometimes you need to make use of various avenues. Ofgem have people that do cold calling. Sometimes they use letters. They use it's just for you to use as much as possible avenues that you can, where you can reach out to people. And for example, they also sponsor campaigns from maybe working with Citizens Advice and other private, there are private organizations that are and charity that are interested in energy and helping people. Sometimes using those interest groups also help. So there are a series of ways to just make sure that it reaches the right people. Because again, most people that are struggling in the community, this is not about it's not that it's not how can I say generalization, but they like most people that let me assume somebody that is vulnerable or maybe might not be able to even afford to be uh, browsing online or watching the news, to be aware of something that might actually have an important impact on him or her. So based on that, often do go to that extra extent to get those various groups and charities and not just rely on getting those individuals themselves. And I think that for someone that wants to do those kind of research as well, those are the things that one needs to be thinking about. That how can I reach these people, and just to make sure that you get the right information from them.
Thank you. Thank you
But
very much.
but just to add, in terms of the amount of data sets, I won't put a limit on it, because you just want to get as much as you want. For example, in UK is having about 80 million population. If you want to get a survey in a UK election, I think the highest I've seen is less than 30 million. So sometimes many of these surveys doesn't really represent, but the only thing that you just know is that as much as possible, you can get variety of opinions that can drive real change.
Thank you. As you were speaking, it just occurred to me that this is also a question that I should have come across, and yeah, it's just the most data professionals, the importance of involving the right stakeholders. There are professionals who know, especially you mentioned social researchers who know how much is enough in a given context, and hopefully they will be able to answer that question. So having that domain expertise, you might be an engineer, but because collecting survey data is quite expensive, so just so that you collect the minimum necessary to make a decision, you need to involve the right stakeholders. Not sure, Emmanuel disappeared off my video. I'll have, okay, oh, there you are. Dr. Adediran, please go ahead with your question. I think this will likely be the last question. We'll just bang on time. Thanks for your patience, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kelechi. Thank you, Dr. Emmanuel, for supporting us as a branch with this, your time and effort to present this webinar. My question is simple. Just can you, explain or can you enlighten us, someone that is trying to dive into the area of expertise as a data analyst or as a data expert, AI expert, how would they, how would they take the journey? Can you, where would they start from? And where can you also, share about the available resources and, that people can like do it yourself? Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Adediran. The question you asked me is a question I asked myself 6 years ago. Then I was a PhD student, and I traveled to Imperial College in London to attend my friend's graduation. And I was playing with them, and I said, "You guys, you become a lecturer." And they told me they rejected. And I said, "Why? You guys, you had a sponsorship, you did a PhD. You guys are best students in OAU. Why?" And they told me the world is going towards data. And I asked them, "What should I do?" They said I need to learn Python, but they leave it at that. Both of them too, they were still figuring it out. One of them is now a solution architect. The other one will soon be a professor. But what I want to say is that if I go back to then, what I did, and that is what I usually encourage people to do. Data is it's easy to get into data. Anyone that has done a master's degree, even if you've done a BSc, in as much as you've analyzed some data before, you can be a data, you can basically be a data professional, a data analyst. You don't even need a training. The only thing for many people like me that I usually encourage people is more of, you know, that you want to you want to go into data. In terms of the real knowledge, your degree has already given you that. What I would advise to focus on is on the tools and technology that you are missing. I know many people, when you talk to them, they will tell you, "Oh, it's not about the tool." But mind you, if you show up to your data analyst job and you can't use the tools, you won't be able to function. But but you've already know what is important. So I would say Excel is very important, even though people don't talk about it. And then there is SQL. In Nigeria, we call it SQL. So that helps you to manage database. There is Python or R, and there is Power BI or Tableau, something to report data. Once you have those four, you'll be fine. I have a data analyst roadmap that I created myself. And for those people that follows me on LinkedIn, I usually share it with them. So I don't have it here, but if you send me a message on LinkedIn, I can share that roadmap with you. It includes the tools that you need, and also like a curriculum, like a syllabus of how you go from A, B, C to D. So it's something that I tell people for free because it's an area I'm passionate about, and that is why I started participating in the ML Club Glasgow. So apologies, I didn't have that to my presentation. I was thinking of just focusing on what we on this topic of constraint limited environment. But if you just send me a message, I'll reply you with the link to get that.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Emmanuel. I did say it was the last question, but do you perhaps could you please indulge us one last question this time?
Yeah, let's make this the last question, please. Thank you.
All right,
Hello,
thank you.
good evening, all.
Aero, Lemon.
Good evening.
Yeah, good
Good
evening.
evening.
Can you hear
It's
me?
greeting from Nigeria, Abuja.
Wow.
Mm.
Somebody
Engineer
else is.
Dr. Aisha Ali Umar.
Right.
Nice to have you, Ma.
Please go on. Thank you.
Thank you and well done. I greet you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us, Engineer Dr. Aisha Ali Umar,
Thank you.
FNSC. We appreciate
Thank
your
you, sir.
time. Thank you so
Well
much.
done. Well
Yes,
done.
sir. Yes, sir.
Uh,
So we can take the last question now, and then that would be all for the presentation. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, go on, please.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. In terms of analyzing data, the tools that you talked about, I think one key challenge with Excel, if you have a data that has rows of more than 1.5 million, it can't just accommodate it. So in terms of be acquiring the data now, what kind of tool apart from Excel? Because I've had that challenge of if you have very large data sets, Excel just cannot handle it beyond 1.5 million column. So what other tools do you use in terms of actually taking this data and using other tools like a Python or MATLAB, whichever one? So what other tools do you have apart from Excel to actually acquire those data from whatever measurement or whatever thing you're doing?
Thank you very much. You see, it's true that Excel cannot handle when the rows are too much. We have a database like if you have data that is too much, I would recommend that you take it to the cloud. And in the cloud, you can have various database, Azure SQL, Postgres, Microsoft. There are MySQL. There are different databases that you can use. And if you use a well-established database, it will make it easier for you. Yeah, just use a well-established database. But and then another thing you can also do is when you have your database, instead of having all your files on one single Excel sheet, maybe you can split them. Some people can have their folder structure so that they get their data on a daily basis. So with that, the rows are not too much. That's if you just have to use Excel. But if not, use an established database to help you.
Okay, thank you very much. And just to plug in quick advert for the branch, if you keep attending our webinars and if you're not a member of this branch, please be on the lookout. We're always talking about some of the ways to get started getting into different careers like, data, AI, and some of the other up and coming career options like cybersecurity and stuff. We've got like lots of professionals from this branch who are doing that. We've had a question in the chat asking if you're happy to share your email address, Dr. Emmanuel. So I'm going to post the link to his LinkedIn, if that's okay. And then hopefully if you follow him, you should be able to directly DM him from there. Thank you. And really appreciate that. Please, could we give a round of applause again to Dr. Emmanuel, and thank you for coming.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Emmanuel. Thank you, Dr. Kenichi, for this technical webinar. On behalf of the members and the ExCos, we want to appreciate you, Dr. Emmanuel, for coming to share your knowledge with us. We believe that in future, we would also be able to collaborate with yourself and obviously continue to share